Very good. Hey, this is Amar, and you are listening to a Think Ultimate podcast. Today we have Mark Lukes with us. Mark is a serial entrepreneur having owned multiple businesses throughout his career. He is the founder of REMA, Real Estate Mergers and Acquisitions Company, a boutique M&A consulting company that helps brokers find their exit strategy and begin a new chapter in their lives. Working most of his career in around the real estate industry, Mark has been witness to many problems real estate companies face and each time was able to find a solution, giving agents, brokers, and owners a way to increase profits, reduce expenses, or decide it might be the time to change directions altogether. So let's welcome our today's guest, Mark Liu. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So excited to have you here and share your amazing experience with the audience. So
Thank
let's
you.
jump on right to the questions, Mark. So tell us something really interesting about yourself that most people don't know.
Oh, something most people don't know. Man, there's not a lot. I'm kind of an open book. Let's see. Most people don't know. I'm a huge movie buff, so I love watching particularly old movies. I'm not the modern stuff is fine, but I've got a collection of I don't know 16 or 1700 movies now, and most of them
Oh,
date back to like the 1920s and 19 teens, all the silent stuff, and so not a lot of people know that about me, but I love that those old movies are great. They have such character development and depth to them that
yes.
sometimes you don't get in the modern action flicks. So
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. So the more vintage, the more quality.
exactly, yeah,
Not in the camera quality, but the scenes and the story quality.
yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, they don't hold up very well a lot of times, but boy, the quality of the acting and the storytelling
Yes.
is just phenomenal. So
Awesome. So which one is your favorite?
well, yeah, that's a harder question to answer just because there's so many good ones. But there's an
Yes.
old Buster Keaton movie named The General, and it's set in post Civil War America. It's a silent one, but Buster Keaton was just phenomenal, physical comedy actor, and it's hysterical. It's difficult in the modern age because we're used to just nonstop action, and so you got to kind of sit and just watch. But if you can just enjoy it, you will laugh so hard a lot of times, just the crazy stuff he did. But anyway, that's definitely ranks near the top.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So I'll write this down and well, after this podcast, I'm going to go right to it and watch it.
Okay, sounds good, you'll
Awesome.
enjoy it.
Awesome. So, Mark, how did you catch the entrepreneurial bug? How did you get into entrepreneurship for the first time?
um well, let's see that. That started, I affectionately tell people I started my first company when I was 8. I was living in a little town called
Eight.
Fresno, California, which isn't so little anymore. But I started a little lawn mowing service, and I had 3 clients, and I made, this would have been in the mid 80s, which or early 80s, really. This kind of dates me a little bit, but I had 3 clients. I made $5 per client per week, which for the 1980s was like a lot of money. I was the only kid that
Yes.
could go to the arcade and spend $15 a week on video games at a quarter a pop. Man, you could burn through cash, but that was the start of it all. I worked right out of college. I worked for a couple people, but I've pretty much been an entrepreneur virtually since I was 19. That was when I really started my first company, and then I built it up, sold it, built up the next one, sold it, and that's just pretty much been my career ever since then. So
Awesome. When you start so early, you get most of the experiences and you have that your interest straight in the way that I have to
yeah,
be an entrepreneur. I love this and I will go into this. You
yeah,
don't
exactly.
have to
It's in
try
your
all
blood.
those
I
things
think
out.
it just, yeah, exactly. It gets in your blood, and you just don't want to go work for the man or whatever. So it's all good.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so Mark, in your opinion, what is the most important personality trait someone would need to become successful in your job?
Hmm. Fully fulfilled in their job. Fully fulfilled in their job. I don't. I suppose in the end, that's probably a lot of individuality in that. I mean, my wife, for example, is a teacher, and she teaches music. Teaching kids to her and watching that growth and watching them become better at a piano or a flute or something, for her that's everything. I mean, she just lights up. To me, that would be just death. I don't like, it's like, that would be horrible. So my version of fulfillment is watching and helping, in this case with Rima, helping brokers, real estate brokers, find their exit strategy, get that next step of their life. That to me is fulfilling. If you work in a factory, if you are a stamp maker or something, who knows? You got to find your own fulfillment in that. If you're just punching the clock, if you're just out there just doing the 9 to 5 thing and you hate every day, find a new job. I mean, find something that inspires you, that makes you want to get up in the morning. It's not my place to say what that's going to be. It's in here. You got to find it in yourself, or
Yes,
you'll just be miserable your whole life. There's just no other way around it.
absolutely. You have to find your own fire. What just lights the fire in you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mark, the question was the most important personality trait someone would need to become successful in your job. But you answered that fulfillment. But that's also a great thing. And people should know
Successful.
what it is about.
Yeah, it's probably just either sheer tenacity or utter stupidity, and I don't know which one it is. Most days it's probably a bit of both, or a little bit of insanity. No, I mean, I have what, 13 employees. I have customers from all over the country, all over the world, really. Every day I get up and it's just put your head down and start going for it. You can't it In the world of entrepreneurship, you're going to get beat up. That's just a given. You might as well get over that idea right now. Nothing ever goes smoothly. Nothing ever goes the way you want. So you're going to get beat up, and you got to be able to take those arrows and just go, it's just a bad day, and tomorrow I got to get up and do it again, because it'll tear you down if you let it. And so you really just have to knuckle down, put the big boy pants on, and just the next morning get up and do it all over again. And you do it every day. And that's how you do it.
Exactly.
That's how you got to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Expect the worst, but hope for the best.
Exactly. Yeah. And hoping for the best is is your mantra.
Exactly. What else can we do? Just working hard and hoping for the best.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Mark, what is your main job at Rema? Like, what do you basically do?
Well, obviously I'm the owner, and so I guess twofold really. I mean, REMA as a company, we again, we help real estate brokers and mortgage and title owners as well. You know, decide whether or not they want to continue owning their companies. Do they want to maybe step away from the day-to-day operations? And we provide them whatever exit strategy they're sort of looking at. Now, as a person, as the owner, what I tell all my employees is, we're part priest and part therapist and part business broker. And the business broker side's pretty easy. We've got X company that wants to sell. We have X company that wants to buy. We put the two together. We help facilitate all that. And there you go, a piece of cake. Now, the therapist part of it is the sellers of these companies. They may have been invested in these companies for 30 years or maybe more. Who knows? This is like selling their children in some sense, and you've got to get them to wrap their head around it. And that gets tough. So you have to walk them through those emotional steps. And then the priest part of it is just, look, sometimes the deals just go wrong. There's nothing you can do. I mean, knock on wood, we've never not been able to make a deal happen. I mean, we're 100% right now, which is great for us. But the realities are nothing's ever easy. We never had a contract yet that just was, you just walk through seamlessly and everything just went off without a hitch. There's always those little hiccups along the road. And again, you just take them and you fight your way through it, and you come up with a solution, and there you go. And when it's all said and done, you've sold another business.
Exactly. So, like realtors sell houses, you sell the companies or real estate.
Well, we sell the businesses, the actual brokerages. The fact that they
Okay.
happen to be in the real estate
Okay.
industry is sort of, just sort of an ancillary thing. We could have picked, what I figured out a long time ago was that, first of all, there's very few pure boutique M&A companies, period. But there were none in the real estate industry. So the real estate industry was just sort of the wide open west. And the fact that I was in the industry with some of my other businesses helped. But sometimes there's property involved, not very often, but sometimes there is property involved. And we have to kind of fuss our way around that one a little bit, just because there's some legal requirements that we have to live by, which obviously, don't want to do anything, wrong. That never is good for anybody. But yeah, we just happen to be an M&A company that works in the real estate industry, and that's how that whole thing came about. So
Awesome. That's great. some idea when you go around finding opportunities, then you find some really good things and you just go into it. And when you work hard, resilience, and you just make it big.
Yeah, yeah, you see the whole. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. I mean, it's it's called the aha moment, or the you see the whole, or you see there's a lot of different phrases for it, but in the end, what I saw was a glaring gap in that industry that the brokers, the owners of these companies, almost 50% of brokers, broker owners are in retirement years, are well into their 60s, and the vast majority have no idea it's even possible to get out of it. They're just stuck in this sort of
Mhm.
perpetual loop. And so we gave them an out. We said, look, come talk to us. We've already got this figured out for you. We're going to solve all your problems. And all you got to do is let us do what we do. Voila, piece of cake. Well, not piece of cake, but you get my point. I mean, it's, that was the whole. And
Yes.
what, 3 years, 4 years later, whatever we're at now, we're one of the biggest in the entire country, and we're even doing a little bit of international stuff now. So, good.
That's great. So right now, when they are planning to retire, you don't have to just sell the company and just burn it down. So they can transfer it to another and see the company growing. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. This is absolutely something unique.
Well,
Awesome.
everybody told me that. So, like I said, milliseconds of genius. You know,
Yes. Awesome. So, Mark, how did you manage to grow your business so far?
a lot of word of mouth. Ironically, again, we're quite almost an industry of one. So once we started getting into the big brokerage brands, and we started working with a few individual brokers, that didn't take long to filter out into the rest of the world that there was this company that could help brokers out. That was huge because, again, brokers sort of got lost into the weeds for, well, better part of 50 years, type of a thing. So we solved a problem and gave a solution that where there had been none almost. And, there's a few exceptions to that rule, of course. But by doing that, it took almost no time for particularly the franchise brands and the big brands to pay attention to what we were doing. And now, we get calls constantly, from independents, from franchise groups, from combinations of brokers. It was amazing how quickly it happened. I've never. I mean, again, this is my fifth company now. I've never had one grow this fast, not in such a short amount of period of time. So
Awesome. Okay, so Mark, as everyone is dealing with some level of difficulties in the business, what are the most common difficulties you are currently facing?
I would say the biggest one is particularly with the owners, with the broker owners on the mortgage, or sorry, on the brokerage side. The mortgage and title company tends to do a little better, but their biggest problem is they don't understand what their value is. Brokers have no, I mean, again, they spend years building these companies up, and sometimes they're worth a lot of money and sometimes they're not worth a lot, but there's still value there. So just educating them on that is our biggest challenge. We get brokers, I've got them right now, who just say, yeah, my last year just was horrible, and the cliff, fell off the cliff type of thing. I'm like, yeah, but you got to remember there's 3 years before that where you were doing really well. So it might balance itself out. It might not, but it might. And so let us do what we call a rapid valuation. It takes us about 10 minutes to just give you a basic number of where you're at. And that opens a lot of doors and a lot of mental hurdles that a lot of these brokers live with, because they just don't know what they don't know. And we do that for free. It just, call one of my advisors. We'll do it on the screen, kind of like a Zoom call, what we're doing right now. And you know what? We'll just do it for you. At least then you know something. Maybe your company's worth $5 million or 100 million. Who knows? Maybe it's only worth a couple 100,000, and that might be okay too. But at least you know. And so that is our number one challenge by far, is just information, getting it out there.
Exactly. So, how many brokerages do you think are there who are planning to sell their companies?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. There's right now in the US, roughly speaking, there's about 105,000 brokerages, plus or minus. You say 49% of those are owned by brokers who are well into their 60s. So you're almost 75,000 brokerages, plus or minus, that are owned by people who are ready to retire. And that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of brokerages. And a
Yes.
lot of them are independent, a lot of them in the franchise system, a lot of them are maybe corporate owned, or whatever the situation may be. Um, but what, even if 10% of those guys are, I say guys generically, not sexually, or sex, whatever it is. gender, not gender related anyway. But you know, you think, well, let's see if say 10% of those people are like, I'm ready to go right now. Okay, that's 7,500. Yeah, 7,500. That's still a lot of brokerages, and I would probably say that's on the
Yes,
low end. I mean, if you were 68 and you'd owned your brokerage for 30 years, wouldn't you be looking to retire? You know, it's just that
absolutely.
simple. Yeah. So you just now we got to give them the information. Now we've got to educate them on what's possible and work with them and then help them.
Awesome. Amazing. Okay, so Mark, what is the growth plan?
Well, that's actually
Grab,
that's funny you would ask me
grabbing
that because
7,500.
that's been an ongoing thing. Look, we know that
Yes,
yeah, the real estate industry in itself is going through several upheavals all at once. I mean, you know, the Federal Reserve notwithstanding and interest rates and all that, that's an easy one to predict. We know, for example, that if the government stays on the track it's on, we're going to have a fairly tumultuous 4, 5, 6 years, something like that. The industry has been sort of divided into what I call more traditional styles, or brick and mortar styles, and the more digital styles, which are more the newer, you know, online type of thing. So that's fracturing a little bit. The franchise models are having their own problems, and then the you know agents are all over the place. Right now, we've got roughly 1.8, 1.9 million agents. Historically, you know, the U.S. has only had around 1.2 million, so we're way oversaturated with agents. I mean, there's just a lot of sort of factors that are hitting this industry all at once. So that was a long way to get to. The long-term strategy for us is to help as many brokers and as many mortgage owners and title owners as we can over the next, we'll call it decade, which is what I think it's going to take to sort of reset everything and get it back to a more healthy level. It could be a little less than that, but for ease of argument, let's just say a decade, 10 years. And at that point, I'm not sure exactly because it depends on what the industry needs. REMA as a company, I think, can pivot and adjust relatively easily to whatever that new paradigm looks like, because our business model is essentially we're just A, we're consultants, and B, we're really just, you know, here to help brokers more than anything else. So we can pivot relatively quickly. After that 10 years, I don't know, there could be a lot of changes. And it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But let's make it through the next 5 or 6 years and kind of see how this starts to shake out, and then we can make some better decisions, you know, based on that.
exactly. When things come out just like government rules and also we have to shift all those plans a little bit. So
Yeah,
we don't know
exactly.
what's going to happen in the future.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Mark, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, best piece of advice. Let's see. There have been so many. I think the best one I ever saw was, or ever was told by a friend of mine, was as a business owner, you have to stay nimble, right? You have to be willing to take those small adjustments and just quickly pivot, because it's business. It's going to happen every day, whether you like it or not. And you know, big bloated
Yes.
companies, the big Fortune 500s, and like that's all well and good that they make, you know, hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. But the honest truth is, they probably lose just as much because they can't shift quick enough. Small companies have an
Yes.
advantage. So I had a buddy of mine a long time ago. I was probably in college still, maybe a little out of college, but and he just said, "Look, when you run a small business, you better learn how to pivot quick and just be nimble." And I've always tried to live by that,
Yes.
and it's served me well over the years.
Exactly. When you have that power of adaptability, then you can shift to changes and you can just like cockroaches. Anything that comes
Yep.
near them, they just adapt to
I don't like to think of us as cockroaches, but okay, you know,
it.
I get the reference.
Yes. Okay. So, what is the worst piece of advice you have ever received?
Worst piece of advice. I had one of my very first companies. Well, let's see, how would I say this? I ran it way too long. I was too emotionally involved in it. I couldn't see the forest through the trees, and I held on way too long and way too tight, and it turned out it was just eating me alive. And finally, a buddy of mine said, "This is a different buddy," but a buddy of mine said, "Dude, you wake up. It's killing you. It's going to take you down if you don't just figure out how to stop." And so that was a good piece of advice. The bad piece of advice was I had another buddy who kept saying, "No, no, you got this. It's all good. It's all going to turn around. No sweat." You know, yeah. And it just never quite did. I didn't lose money on it, but boy, was that the longest year, almost 2 years, where I should have just let it go a lot earlier and step away from it. But yeah, it's a learning lesson. No, no harm, no foul.
Absolutely. When you don't go all through all those learnings, then you never know. because humans are made to learn the hard way. If someone comes
Yep.
comes and tells you that you should just leave this company, then you don't know that it is the advice that he's giving me is gonna prove good or bad in my favor. So
Yeah, exactly.
just go along the way and find out.
Yep. Yeah, exactly right. No, exactly right. So,
Awesome. So Mark, if you were to write a book about yourself, how would you name it?
all right, say that for me one more time. Hit me with that again.
Yes. If you were to write a book about yourself, how would you have named it?
Ah, book about myself. I don't know that I would write a book about myself if I'm being honest. I'm not sure I'm that interesting. No, book about myself. That's a good question. I probably just, be tenacious. Never stop. I don't know, something like that. Just simple. I always say, I say this to people all the time. I'm a very simple man. So if I could pick a title, it would be something just two, maybe three words. Be tenacious, be confident, be something. Because I think in the case of a book title, less might be more. I read
Yes.
these books all the time that have got, it's this, and then it's 14 lines of subtitle, and you go, really? You couldn't have said it with just a few less words? But yeah, I think that would be me. Something very simple like that. Just, you know, keep going.
Exactly. Just read the title and get an idea what's going to be in that book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite quotation?
Oh, boy, you've got some good ones coming at me. I'm not used to these kind of questions. Let's see. This will sound like a rather darker one, but um, I've always enjoyed it because it sort of keeps me humble. But there was a line by an old World War II. I was really into World War II airplanes for the longest time when I was a kid. There was a pilot out of World War II named Greg Boyington. He flew in the Marines, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, he wrote a book, and the final line in it was, "Just name a hero, and I'll prove he's a bum." Now that may sound a little bit dark, but what I like about it is that we all have our heroes in life. We've all had our people that we look up to. I have. I'm sure everybody who's listening to this probably has. And you got to remember that they're just real people too. And it's okay to idolize somebody. That's perfectly acceptable. But those people that you idolize, don't forget, they still get up in the morning and they look like crap, and you put on their pants one leg at a time, the whole bit. It's okay to remember that they're just people. I mean, I give it, all these people who idolize, God knows, whatever Hollywood starlets, the talk of the town right at the moment, since I don't pay a lot of attention to Hollywood. But she wakes up, or he wakes up, and he still looks like crap in the morning, just like you. They got to watch their diet or whatever, just like you, or whatever that looks like. So it's okay to bring them down a peg. That's all right. So
Exactly. In that way, you connect more and you see the possibility that you can also achieve that kind of things.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So, Mark, what are the some mistakes that you made and how could you have avoided them?
Oh, that one's a lot easier. A lot of mistakes. Look, I mean, specifically, some of the mistakes I've made are I stopped, again, being nimble. I got too focused on, I want to accomplish X, whatever X is. I don't remember at the time. It was, and people do it, particularly when they're entrepreneurs. They get a vision of what their life is going to be like. I'm going to go buy a big house, or I'm going to buy a car, I'm going to buy a plane, whatever. And you get driven by that one thought process, and you lose sight of the fact that you've still got customers, you've still got employees, you've still got a business, you've still got things you have to run. So that's a huge problem. I mean, and I went through that. I mean, when I was younger, but specifically, and I think it was on my second company, and I had to have the, whatever I had an Audi, whatever it was, A4 at the time, but it was brand new, and it had every button that this would have been in the 90s. But it's like you get focused, you want that, and it doesn't matter what that is. It's just, that's what I wanted at that moment. And I forgot that I got to pay for it. I forgot that I've got customers who make that life possible. And what I found was the customers went, well, you're not attending to me anymore, right? You're so focused on this over here that I've become an afterthought. And it was bad. I should have kept my head a little more grounded. But it was a huge learning lesson. Well, you learn fast when you lose a couple clients. You go, oh crap!
Yes.
Like, how do you pay for the car? Now you own it. Great. But at the same time, it was like, oh yeah, we better slow down and slow the roll and get refocused. And it's easy to do.
Exactly.
It's very easy to do.
Exactly. When you get all those, when you are starting to achieve all those kind of things, you really slow down. And when you get those
Exactly.
2 to 3 punches in the face, then you just, this is the thing I need to
Yep.
focus more.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so Mark, what is that? Just before that, how would you like to be remembered?
You know, as a business owner, I'm perfectly comfortable not being remembered. If I, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean, look, if every one of my employees became a millionaires because of the company I started and the work that we all did together, whether they remembered me or whether their kids remembered me or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. I did something positive for the world. I want my grandkids to remember me.
Yes.
That would be nice. I want my kids to remember me. That'd be okay. But as far as business goes, business owners have come and gone for, you can name on probably two hands the business owners who have their names have lasted the test of time. I mean, you've got the Carnegies and you've got the Rockefellers, but by and large, business owners, large and small, just come and go, and that's okay. It's perfectly fine not being remembered in that sense, because the employees, right, the people who work for me, that's who I care about. The customers who work with us, that's who I care about. If they remember me, if they can retire and they go on cruises for the rest of their lives or whatever that looks like for them, and they remember me as the person who helped achieve that, great, all beautiful, love it. Everything else, don't sweat it. It doesn't matter. There's
Exactly.
9 billion people on this planet. We all can't be remembered. It's just not going to happen. So
Absolutely.
snap out of that
Absolutely.
one.
Exactly. So you don't want to be remembered as a biggest business owner, but you want to be remembered as a person who helped people to achieve their goals as well as in other things. Amazing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. So, Mark, what is that one piece of advice you would give to the young entrepreneurs starting in your field?
Oh, well, I think that two, actually, two things I would say is make sure you're ready. It's not an easy life. I understand on TV it all looks good, and some little kid or somebody starts, and the next thing you know, they all have $1 trillion, and they're not, but not everybody can be Elon Musk. Not everybody can be Zuckerberg and those guys. It just
Yes.
doesn't happen. To get ready to work, because it's not simple. It's not a simple job, and if you're not prepared for that little truism, you're going to probably fail. And that's a lousy way to say it, but I believe in being honest and truthful with people. And yeah, you better be prepared to work. And I work 7 days a week. I'm almost always on my phone, all on call, type of a thing. And I take call. Trust me, my wife's usually not a happy camper. And so, but she knew what she was getting into. So that would be number one. And number two is, uh, don't don't forget that it's still you. I mean, a lot of people get lost in their business. Again, this is what we deal with the brokers in some sense. Their brokerage or their company in this case, it becomes them. It becomes their identity. On the back half of my bio, it's I'm all things Porsche, and I like scuba diving if I can, and snorkeling, and spending some time with my wife whenever possible, because that's who I am. And you've got to remember that you still have to be you sometimes. You might still be on call. You still might be taking phone calls, but you've got to have your outlets. You've got to have your way to relieve that stress and be back to nature. And that's a lousy way to say that, but back to being you and who you are authentically. And you got to remember that, because the business will eat you alive if you let it. And you got to slow down
Yes.
sometimes.
Absolutely. Just enjoy the life as well as be ready to work hard.
Exactly. Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly.
So thanks a lot, Mark. And if you have something to say at the end of this episode, then please go.
Well, yeah, no, hey, I've really appreciated this. You hit me with a couple of questions I'm not used to, so I like those kind of things. But yeah, look, I mean, I guess if I can do a shameless plug, Rema.global, REMA.global, and if you're in the mortgage industry or the title of the brokerage industry, call us. We're happy to help. So we'll definitely do something for you. So
Awesome. So thanks a lot, guys, for listening. Keep watching, keep listening, and have a great day.